Hey everybody, Mike D, and you are listening to Son of a Witch podcast. So thanks for tuning back in. If this is the first time you're listening, you may want to go back to episode 1. But yeah, so Son of a Witch podcast, welcome back. Was going to do something completely different this week as an episode. I was going to go ahead and do the in bulk episode that I teased on TikTok earlier this week. And that was to give everyone, at least a month to kind of prepare and get ready. When I did the Yule episode, which was the first episode of season 4, that was just kind of a last minute decision. I didn't really, I knew so much about it that I didn't have to research it much. It was an episode that I'd done in season 1, but I wanted to do it a little bit differently, and so I kind of revisited it 4 years later. And this week, I was going to give everybody a little more preparation time. However, I kind of shifted gears. I think Hecate was kind of urging me to go ahead and do an episode on her. Again, this season, not every episode, but there's going to be a handful that are topics I touched on in season 1, but I didn't go as deep into it because I wanted it to be more introductory for people new to the path, getting back into it, rather. And this time it's going to be a little bit of a deeper dive into it, but I also know a little bit more about the editing process. For any of you that don't know, if you haven't listened to the show before, then welcome for the first time. Congratulations, you found us. For any of you that don't know, I am a voice actor by trade, and I've done lots of different voices. Mickey Mouse, Kermit the Frog, different accents and impersonations, celebrities and such. So I'd been in studios a lot, but I didn't know so much about the editing process, how to do like interviews over the phone, and but it did improve in season 2 and then again in season 3, and now here we are. Now, all that to say, welcome to episode 2, The Mysteries of Hecate. Hecate, and I'll just give you an experience that I had the first time that I worked with her, and then we'll kind of cover a few other little administrative things that we need to get out of the way, and we'll dive right into the rest of the show. But when I first started working with Hecate, I was living in Vermont at the time, and the house that we lived in was technically a 3-story house. It had a full basement, so there were 3 levels to the house. The laundry and everything was in the basement. I happened to be the only person in the house that day, and I knew that because there were no cars in the driveway. And I was down there doing some laundry. I had started the podcast. I had been drawn to Hecate, so I was reading about her, learning more about her, talking to some people that had been working with her for a while. And so I was definitely eager to kind of get to know her and hopefully earn her favor, so to speak. I started getting like a tug, and I don't know how to explain it. I get what I call downloads. I'll be planning to do something, and then I get pulled in another direction, and I kind of know that it's a deity or one of my spirits that I work with or something like that kind of pulling me in that direction. And then I just kind of get a download or a data dump, and it's just a lot of information that I want to get out. So I had been getting drawn to do an episode on Hecate, but never having worked with her, I had at that point read extensively about her, but I still hadn't worked with her yet. I hadn't set up an altar to make offerings to her yet. And so I didn't expect that I should be doing an episode like that. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't anything like that. It was information I had learned and retained, and like I say, just a download. But anyway, back to the laundry. So I was doing laundry in the basement of the house. It was winter. The house was silent. I was just doing a little cleaning that day. And suddenly, because for a couple weeks at that point, I had been kind of ignoring that urge or draw to do an episode about her, it was almost as though someone was standing literally beside me, right in my ear, screaming at the top of their lungs, and not happily, "You need to listen." I knew instantly, I don't know how, but just intuitively, I knew that it was her, and I knew what she was talking about. So that day, I was going to be doing a recording for something different. I don't even remember the topic now. It's so long ago. The show ended up as an episode about Hecate. That leads us to here. I wanted to include a little bit more information. There's going to be a ritual that you do on the dark moon to honor her and the dead. There's going to be some crystals and herbs, magical ones, of course, for the magical crystal herb of the week. That is going to be associated with Hecate this week, obviously. I'm going to be doing all about the Mysteries of Hecate because she's amazing, but she can also be extremely intimidating and fierce too. So when you approach her, you have to approach with reverence and respect, and you have to be basically trying to earn her favor, as I said earlier. Aside from that, before we close off this intro, there's a couple things. One, as I said earlier in the, I guess a few weeks ago, I said, basically we have, or I keep saying we, it's just me. I'm the host and the creator and the editor and all the other stuff. So on Son of a Witch, the show has a TikTok channel. It has an Instagram channel. It has a Facebook page. There's a website, and we have an email. However, any of you that have listened since season 1 know that I don't really fuck with Twitter. Never have. Now that it's X, still don't fuck with you either. So Twitter and me never jived. I don't like it. I don't find that it's conducive to keeping in touch with a listenership or following of a podcast show. And now it's owned by, well, we won't even get into that. But anyway, so yeah, I don't fuck with Twitter. Instagram, before the show, and that's something I do need to point out, before on the show, the Instagram was at Son of a Witch Pod. It's at Son of a Witch Podcast now. And there's a reason. I guess the short version is Instagram fucking sucks. There's no way to get in touch with anybody. There's no way to get any support if there's an issue. I will also note that I'm not much more favorable of Instagram than I am of Twitter at all, by any means. I find Instagram to be boring. Not only that, I can post something on TikTok like I did a few days ago. I posted a meme. You can go on there and look, but it was basically an old picture that you would see in a lot of children's Bibles of Jesus surrounded by lots of different disciples and kids. And it basically said, so we were sitting around telling stories, and Peter, high as fuck, says, we should write a book. So I posted that up there. It's almost at 5,000 views. Then I can go to Instagram and post something, the same thing, same caption, same hashtags, same background music, everything. And I get 15 views. But yeah, all that to say, I don't really like Instagram that much. So I will be posting occasionally to Instagram, but not nearly as much as I do to TikTok or Facebook when I'm not recording actual episodes. Aside from that, Happy New Year. I hope that New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, I hope that Xmas and Xmas Eve, all those things. Because in my family, I'm pagan, so I more than anything observe, Yule. To me, Samhain is the new year. But I also still observe the secular holidays as well, because most of my family do. My wife still does. So yeah, duality. It exists in all, right? I hope all that was super fucking awesome for you. In the meantime, since the last episode aired, we have rescued a baby lamb here on the property. Some of you may have picked up on the fact that I help run a nonprofit, 38 acres, and we help homeless foster youth that have aged out of the system. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. But we did, because we live on an off-grid property, about 38 acres, as I said. There's a lot of area. And in one of those areas, we found a baby lamb stuck in the mud, maybe just a few days old. And now he's a couple weeks old, approximately, and getting bigger. And so, yeah, he's our pet and runs around with our dogs and acts very puppy-like. It's adorable. We're feeding him with a bottle. This shit's insane. So anyway, life is fucking dope. And the intro is coming to a close, and we're about to dive into the episode. Get fucking ready. Here we go. Okay, this is the segment of the show any of you old-time listeners will remember. What's flicking my wand and boiling my cauldron? If you're not familiar, flicking my wand, things that I'm digging, could be a shop, could be, a maker, creator, could be another podcast, could be a book, could be a lot of things. It's most always going to be related to witchcraft or magic, sorcery, spell work, things of that nature. Could be the community of witchcraft. That is flicking my wand. And then boiling my cauldron, that is things that, for lack of a better word, are just annoying and pissing me off. And so we just air both of those. And I invite you, in the comments on the show, social media, any of that, to, voice your things that are flicking your wand or boiling your cauldron. Moving forward, as far as flicking my wand, it was a dope holiday season. A little bit busy and crazy, like they tend to be, but life is good, and I'm digging that. I'm also loving that the show is getting so much feedback already so early. I think it's been about a week and a half since the last episode came out about Yule. And it's just popped off. Back to boiling my cauldron. As far as boiling my cauldron, it's not so much something that irritates me. I find it hilarious, honestly. But I will make a PSA of sorts. If you're listening to my show right now, and you are a Christian, there are one of two reasons that you're doing it. You're listening because secretly you're interested. Or, I take that back. Could be three options. So there's the one. The second one is that you are listening in an effort to try and be hateful or blow up my comments or be disruptive, which completely goes against the Ten Commandments state, for you and how a Christian is supposed to behave. But neither here nor there. The third one could be that you're someone that knows me and loves me and is supportive of me, as I have a brother and a cousin and numerous other people that do. Those are the three reasons. Now, the reason I said that is for one big reason, and that is that there's a post on Instagram. The same one is on TikTok. So if you go to that, it's the one of Jesus sitting surrounded by everybody on Instagram at Son of a Witch Podcast. If you look at the comment section of that, it's fucking insane and hilarious. But the thing that kind of rattles me, I guess, or just flusters me is, why the fuck are y'all on my page? It's a witchcraft page. Now, I get that it could come across your feed while you're just scrolling through Instagram. But then we're going to go back to those three options we mentioned. Instagram uses an algorithm that shows you shit that you don't follow, that it thinks you like based on other shit that you've been looking at. So if you're getting a witchcraft themed, which all the hashtags were witchcraft related, pagan related, if you're getting that floating across your newsfeed, shame, you've been looking at some shit related to magic or paganism or something already. Anyway, if you want to listen to my show and you're Christian and you don't agree with what I'm saying, then I invite you to do so. That's totally fine. Just know that while you're doing that, the rest of us are kind of chuckling because you're hanging out around a witch, a sorcerer, a magic practitioner, and you keep saying how bad we are, but yet you keep staying. So I guess that it could almost be like two versions of flicking my wand this week, because that one, like I say, really doesn't bother me. It just confuses. There's a better term. It confuses me, much as the term Christian witch confuses me. And if you are a Christian witch listening to this, do not go off on me. I'm not saying anything bad. I just don't understand it is all. I've been raised, if you know anything about me, I've been raised a Christian most of my life. And for over 30 years, I've been a practitioner of magic and the occult and sorcery and witchcraft, etc. But it baffles me how somebody can be a Christian witch. So, but I'm not saying anything bad about it. I'm not saying you can't be. I just don't get it. That is what's flicking my wand and boiling my cauldron. And now, moving on. All right, and now we are at the segment of the show where we go over a magical plant, herb, or crystal of the week. And this week, as I said in the intro, we're going to be talking about Hecate. So this week, of course, there are going to be things that are kind of aligned with her, or things that work well when you are seeking her wisdom or advice or guidance. Hecate being the powerful figure of ancient Greek mythology and witchcraft, she's associated with magic, the moon, the underworld. It makes her a very complex and interesting figure, and we're going to dive deeper into her in the main segment of the show. But her influence can be felt in many different aspects of contemporary witchcraft. If you work with her and honor her and her energy, you can tap into some transformative power and connect with a lot of deeper parts of the spiritual world. Now, there's several herbs and crystals that are commonly associated with Hecate in modern day witchcraft, and we're just going to touch on a few examples. As far as herbs, Hecate is often associated with herbs that have somewhat of a protective or transformative property. Some common herbs associated with Hecate include mugwort, which we actually grow, wormwood, yarrow, lavender, and mandrake. Mugwort and wormwood are particularly potent for divination and journeying, while yarrow is associated with psychic abilities and prophetic dreams. And then you've got lavender, which can be used for purification and protection. And then mandrake is a potent plant for transformation and shamanic work. And next you've got black nightshade, a plant that's associated with Hecate in some traditions of witchcraft and herbalism. In ancient Greek mythology, Hecate was associated with magic and witchcraft and was said to have knowledge of poisonous herbs and their uses. Black nightshade is a plant that has a long history of use in traditional herbalism and is known for its poisonous properties. In some cultures, it's actually been used as an entheogen or a psychoactive plant. However, you do need to understand that black nightshade is a very toxic plant and can be dangerous if ingested, so I do not recommend that you work with it, ingest it, any of that. You've been warned. It should only be used with someone with a very extensive knowledge and experience in working with poisonous or baneful plants, and even then should be used with very extreme caution. It's always better to err on the side of caution and approach these plants with extreme respect and reverence. As far as crystals that are often associated with Hecate, dark colored crystals that have protective and transformative properties, transformations, see a theme here. Some common crystals associated with Hecate include black tourmaline, obsidian, amethyst, hematite, smoky quartz, and labradorite. Black tourmaline and obsidian are particularly potent for protection and grounding, while hematite is associated with manifestation and strength. Smoky quartz, however, is used for transmutation, spiritual growth, while labradorite is believed to enhance intuition and psychic abilities. I used to have a labradorite pendulum that was fucking amazing, and I miss it dearly. So it's important to note that these herbs and crystals are simply associations and may not always be universally agreed upon, and that's just with damn near anything in life. Different practitioners may have their own different associations with Hecate, may choose to work with different herbs or crystals, just based on personal experience and practice. And just like with any spiritual practice, you just need to follow your intuition and work with what resonates with you personally. So that is that segment. So right now we are going to move on to the main topic, the mysteries of Hecate. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to Son of a Witch Podcast, the podcast where we're going to delve into the mythology, magic, witchcraft, and the unseen realms of existence. I am your host, Mike D, and today we're going to embark on a little bit of a journey into the world of Hecate. Hecate is one of my favorite deities, one that I work with a lot. Yeah, she's pretty interesting. I did an episode back in season 1, but it wasn't as deep a dive as this is going to be, which is still not even as deep as I could go. And I wanted to do it again because it was one of the more popular episodes. So a little bit about Hecate. She's the goddess of magic, she's the goddess of witchcraft and the night, figure shrouded in myth, mystery, and multifaceted symbolism. Hecate's allure lies not only, though, in her associations, but also she's got a rich history and a lot of cultural significance. Whether you're familiar with her, or if this is the first time you've heard of her, which I would be very surprised if you're listening to this podcast and that's the case. But either way, let's prepare to dive into the many layers of one of the most powerful goddesses. Now, Hecate's origins can be traced back to ancient Greece, and buckle up, we're going to get a little historical here for a second. But her earliest literary mentions appear around the 5th century BCE in works of dramatists like Aeschylus and later in Hesiod's Theogony. Yet, got roots that go a little bit further back than that, potential connections to pre-Hellenic cultures and traditions, including the Anatolian goddess Hecate or the Thracian Hecate, which showcases her pan-cultural resonance. Her attributes, as I said, are fascinating and multifaceted. Say that 3 times fast. I want you to imagine a dimly lit path diverging in 3 directions. Now, each is going to lead to a different fate. And in this imagery, Hecate embodies not only the choices of life, but also the necessity of awareness in making those decisions, reminding us of the unseen forces guiding each turn that we take. Now, visually, she's often represented as a tripartite figure. And if you don't know what tripartite figure means, let's go back to multifaceted. Basically, tripartite is consisting of 3 parts. 3 forms embodying her dominion over life, death, and rebirth, reflecting the cyclical nature of existence. This depiction is a little bit more than aesthetic, though. Each figure represents a different aspect of life: maiden, mother, and crone, encapsulating the entirety of the female or feminine experience. This idea of the triple goddess aligns her closely with lunar cycles, emphasizing themes of renewal and the passage of time. She was the triple-faced goddess of the crossroads whose familiars were a black dog and a polecat, an animal similar to a ferret. She's frequently depicted striding through the night holding 2 torches. Now, the dog is said to be Queen Hecuba of Troy, who was captured as a slave by Odysseus. She killed the king of Thrace for murdering her son, Polytorus, and was transformed by Hecate in an act of mercy when the grief-crazed queen, in turn, was murdered by the Thracian mob. Polecat is said to have once been a witch called Gale, who was once a dealer in spells and a bit of a sorceress. Unlike Hecate's kindness in turning Hecuba into her dog familiar, Gale was punished with the transformation for her evil dealings. Hecate is shown in ancient art even as a woman holding a pair of torches. She's portrayed varying from young to middle-aged. However, there are at least 2 images of her that show her in the knee-length dress of a maiden, like Artemis is often portrayed wearing. Now, if you want to dive a little bit deeper into her nature, which of course we do, why the fuck not, right? So, Hecate embodies both nurturing and destructive energies. She's regarded as a protector of women and children, especially during childbirth, which highlights her maternal aspect. But she's also embodying darker energies and is often associated with the dead and the practice of witchcraft, a duality that speaks to the complexities of existence itself. Now, her connection to witchcraft has made her a pivotal figure in modern neo-pagan practices, where she is invoked often for her wisdom, guidance, and empowerment. In ancient rituals and celebrations, Hecate was particularly honored during the dark moon, a time linked with mystery, dreams, and the secrets of the subconscious. Offerings were common. People would place food, like spiced cakes, honey, and bread, garlic, all sorts of stuff. And we'll get into that a little bit later when we go into the Deipnon. But at crossroads and altars, inviting her blessings while acknowledging her powers over the mysterious forces of nature and the unseen. This ritualistic aspect emphasizes the importance of connecting with the divine in both joyous and also dark times. In other words, as you may have heard me say before, good vibes only is a myth and doesn't exist. So, moving on. One of Hecate's most compelling myths involves her participation in the abduction of Persephone. Hades, the god of the underworld, took Persephone to be his queen. Now, in this tale, Hecate emerges not only as a key player, but also as a guide. After she witnessed the abduction, she becomes a companion to Demeter, Persephone's mother, in her quest to find her daughter. This narrative emphasizes Hecate's role as a protector and also a mediator, further cementing her position as a goddess who bridges the worlds of the living and the deceased. This relationship between Hecate and Persephone has profound implications. It symbolizes the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. In this context, Hecate can be considered a guardian of boundaries between worlds, showcasing how life's challenges can lead to transformation. But why should modern listeners care about Hecate? In today's world, you can seek empowerment and reconnect with your spiritual selves. She reminds us to embrace the duality within ourselves, the light and the dark, the nurturing and also the fierce. Each of us has crossroads that we have to navigate at some point or another, and Hecate can guide us through our personal journeys. She's world-renowned for guiding you through shadow work and loves to push you when you get a little disheartened during such shadow work. Her presence also empowers individuals to acknowledge their shadows, like we were just speaking about, understand their motivations, and embrace both aspects of their identities. Today, a lot of practitioners of witchcraft and contemporary paganism invoke her for wisdom and guidance, as we said before. To call upon Hecate is to assert one's claim over one's destiny. Now, I will say, and there is some contention in the community as to, some people say different, some people agree, but in my experience, Hecate either wants to work with you or she does not. As we've said, she can be nurturing, she can be fierce. She embodies a lot of different aspects. So if you approach her and try to work with her and you don't get a response, or you get a resounding no, then maybe just try to back off a little bit, and we'll go into a little bit later how you can try to nurture that relationship. I will say she's definitely not a goddess that you want to dive straight in to trying to work with without making offerings and, showing the due respect and eagerness to learn from her prior to that. Off topic enough. So let's continue. Now, as we get a little bit further into discussing Hecate, I want to invite you to reflect on her role or what it could be in your own life. I mean, are there crossroads you're currently facing? Maybe you've got some shadows you need to confront so that you can move forward on your path. Hecate encourages us to kind of seek that balance within ourselves and navigate the complexities of our existence. And it's through understanding and embracing our dark moments that we can grow and transform and ultimately find empowerment. Okay, and last but not least, what kind of episode about Hecate and devoted to her magnificence and all the many wondrous things that she embodies would it be if I didn't cover like some rituals or spells or something like that you can do? So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go over Deipnon, which is a ritual. Anyway, we'll get into it. It's hard to explain it first, but you can call it Hecate's Supper. It's done on the dark moon. That's Deipnon, and it's dedicated to Hecate, and it's basically a ritual of a supper for her and the dead. It is the favorite ritual that you can do for her and in honor of her, for me anyway. And because it's dedicated to Hecate, I mean, that gives it some oomph too in my favorable category. Also, it's just a nice way to kind of pay homage to her. It holds multiple purposes: purification, expiation, which if you don't know what that means, kind of like purging or cleansing or atoning, and the supper itself. The dark moon, as I said, is the Deipnon, and that's dedicated to Hecate prior to that day, because you're going to do this on the night of the dark moon. Prior to that, there's a ritual, a purification ritual called oxythumia. Basically, it's what you do in your home before the Deipnon. You sweep and clean your home. You smoke the house to cleanse it. You can use, I would recommend, sage, ethically harvested sage. Don't recommend Palo Alto often because it is not nearly as plentiful and could be in danger of being wiped out in the near future. So that's just my personal opinion. If you don't agree, okay, it's cool. No worries. But a lot of us take this time to do kind of a spring cleaning. So that's how you can picture it. You've done that before. So because what you gather during the cleaning is supposed to be offered alongside the Hecate supper in the night. And that means it has to be done before the ritual, which would mean doing it before the dark moon begins. So what I basically do is the day before, I'll do some basic cleaning throughout the day. In our household, we're cleaning just about every day. But if you do it certain days, just plan that week to do it the day before. So I clean up, just basically through the day. And then in the evening, when the dark moon officially begins, I ritually clean my altar and shrine. And this is the sweepings and whatever else that comes off the altar and shrine and from around them go into a container that I have for this specific purpose. Now this container holds all the offerings that I've made to Hecate throughout the month. Then we move on to the Deipnon itself. Now, the Deipnon is the main ritual of Hecate's supper. And I wouldn't say it's simple, but it's not hard. You make an offering to Hecate and leave it at a crossroads for her and also for the dead. Now, if you're thinking in your head a four-way crossroads and you're like, I'm not anywhere near that. I live in a city or something like that. You can, let's say you're in an apartment building. If there's a hallway, that has 3 divergent paths or 4 preferably, then that's a crossroad. So you just kind of have to make substitutions as need be because it's the intention in that area that means more. It's symbolic in a way. So, but yeah, you make an offering to Hecate, you leave it at the crossroads for the dead. Now, it's really up to you what you want to leave, but there are some traditional ideas you can take inspiration from. You can do garlic, a raw egg still in the shell, leek, onion, fish, breads or cakes, and then there's sweepings and things that you do when you ritually clean your altar, that container with all the offerings, if you want to do that from the previous month. You can include that. Leftover stray offerings on the altar and shrine like we discussed, and then anything you don't want to take into the new month. Now, after you do all that cleaning, you're going to gather the food offerings for the Deipnon and take them to your altar or shrine. Basically, what you're doing with this is you want to, or not bless it, but kind of consecrate it, I guess. Some people may offer a hymn to Hecate, which if you look online or if you reach out to me and ask, I can guide you in the direction of some. But there's lots of hymns about and even to or in honor of Hecate. So you can do something like that, light some incense, light a candle, and you're going to place the offerings into your usual offering bowl and then gather up that bowl with the new offering, the container, all the sweepings and previous offerings, and maybe even a shot glass of some wine in it or some honey, and you're going to go outside. Now, I would recommend wine over the honey because if you live in an area that has ants, that could get sketchy. But then you're going to take it to the crossroads, and like I mentioned before, you can do it at the end of a driveway because technically your driveway is one direction and then there's 2 directions going off of it. So that can be one. You can do it in a hallway of an apartment building. So you have no excuse. But I say another hymn when I do it to Hecate while I pour out the wine, and then I place the new offering and container full of other stuff onto the grass. In this moment, if you don't want to, say you live in an area where you're worried it could be damaged, destroyed, or taken, and you don't want to leave a bowl or a piece of dishware, put it in a tortilla. If you're like where we are, we live on an island, we have banana trees. You can put it in a banana leaf. Do whatever you want to do and however you want to do it. Just make sure it's something that can be eaten, consumed, or degrade away. You don't want to leave anything that's going to like litter, basically. Now, there's 2 points I want to make here. Okay. One, like I said, I say a hymn to Hecate while I pour out the wine, and then I put stuff on the grass. You want to turn around and walk away, and you don't look back. Go inside. You can, go around the altar in the shrine, blow out that candle if it's still going, do some housework there. And basically the reason you're not meant to look back after leaving is because you might risk the dead driving you mad. And look, that's the mythology of it. That's the legend. That's what I've read time and time again. So your boy here does not look back. Let's just put it that way. Plus, for all we know, it could be disrespectful to Hecate, and I definitely don't want to do that. You're meant to leave the offerings on whatever you put them on, never to retrieve it again. So that's why I said earlier, if you don't want to use dishware, plate, something like that, you don't want to use a paper plate because that could be litter. Tortilla or a banana leaf or something like that would be a good substitute. Or rice paper, whatever. So that's pretty much it. Now, the day of the Deipnon, so you do that the night, and then the next day, that's a day that a lot of people would do, various things to prepare going into that new month. So they might pay off bills that need paying, other debts, give thanks and offerings to deities that you forgot to say thank you to, finish any projects that you didn't finish during the month, do a little more cleaning or housework, write some thank you notes, letters, cards, messages, text. You get the gist. Get rid of things that you don't want around the house anymore. Clean out some stuff. So that's that. And if you have any other questions, like I said, that's just a brief overview of it. There's some more lore and stuff that go into it. But if you have any questions, I'll point you in the direction where you can learn a little bit more about it. And then finally, I want to give you a spell. Now, this spell is courtesy of Llewellyn. Llewellyn has a lot. It's not where I get most of my books, but their website is pretty cool. And most of the things come from different books that they sell. But this one comes from a book which is, I don't know, it's like the yearly spell a day book or something like that. I don't know the name of it. But it's a Hecate protection spell. And I'd seen this spell before in various other locations, not related to Llewellyn. Have used it in the past. I've altered it a bit for the version that I have in my grimoire. But this version here is one that was on their website, and it's pretty simple, easy, and fast to do if you feel like you need a little bit of protection. Now, whenever you're feeling like that, you want to call on Hecate, dark goddess and protector of witches. This Greco-Roman goddess, as we discussed in this episode, rules heaven, earth, and the underworld. She can move through each of those three worlds easily, seeing all and knowing all. So you can use this spell anytime you feel threatened or unsafe for her protection and guidance. And you say, basically, Hecate, I call to thee. Watch over me as you can see all the negativity swarming around me. May your grace protect me. And that's all you say. Now, there is a powder you can do, like if you're doing this at your altar, which would be the way I would do it. You can have a candle going, have some incense burning, and this powder is similar to like a powdered incense that'll increase the power and energy of that spell. So you can use it to mark a sacred circle on the ground. You can use it as an incense, however you want to do it. But you're going to mix the three different components in equal parts. You're going to start with coarse sea salt for cleansing negativity. You're going to mix in black salt, and that doesn't mean the Indian cooking type, but the magical type of black salt for protection. And if you don't know how to acquire that, you can get it online, but if you want to know how to make it, reach out to me and I will give you my recipe for doing so. And then finally, you're going to add ground dragon's blood to complement and raise the powder's energy level. So you can sprinkle this over like a charcoal disc. You wouldn't be able to just light it itself. But if you have some other incense going, you can sprinkle this over the top of it, and that will activate this and give you a little bit extra oomph to the spell. But yeah, Hecate's amazing. If you are thinking about working with her, I do have some books that I can recommend to you. I didn't have time to go over those here. But yeah, reach out to me on social media, email me, something like that, and I'll be more than happy to give you some guidance and advice on how to move forward with trying to work with the goddess Hecate. Thanks for tuning in. I love what I do, and I'm so glad to be back on the air, so I hope you enjoy this episode. We'll do episode 3 will be the in bulk episode, I promise. Well, I can't promise if Hecate or somebody else tells me otherwise, but mostly sure that we'll be doing the in bulk episode, and that's going to be all about that Sabbath, different rituals, spells you can do. Again, we'll go over the magical herb and crystals associated with in bulk, talk about the origin, the lore, the meaning. Yeah, we're going to get deep into it. So other than that, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check out the YouTube channel. Also, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and at the website. So thanks for tuning in. See you next week. Peace.